I'm Katie Couric, stuck in a storm. A group nightmare for thousands of people stranded hour after torturous hour on the highway.
We just sat there for basically 13 hours.
And the runway.
Pulling into a gate for 9 hours was horrible.
Where's that U.S. troop buildup? These Iraqis fear they won't live long enough to see it. And House Democrats are out to stop it. Peanut butter and salmonella, a coast-to-coast case of food poisoning, makes hundreds of people sick as our series on food safety continues.
Stay on your toes.
And meet the man who can make your hoop dreams come true.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hi, everyone. That wicked winter storm that caused so much grief all across the country is finally blown out to sea, but we won't soon forget it. The storm left at least 15 people dead, caused hundreds of traffic accidents on the East Coast alone, and all that snow and ice, it's not going anywhere. Much of the country is in the deep freeze. As far south as Washington, D.C., daytime temperatures never got out of the 20s, and a lot of travelers aren't going anywhere either. Sharon Alfonsi has their story.
From airports to interstates, today thousands of people found themselves frozen in place. In eastern Pennsylvania, motorists were stranded on icy Interstate 78 overnight and into today.
And there really was nothing that we could do. We were just kind of stuck there. Couldn't go forward, couldn't go backwards, couldn't go anywhere.
For 15 hours, a 50-mile standstill. Drivers put their cars in park and prayed.
How desperate was the situation out here?
I'd say in a lot of cases it's been pretty desperate. A lot of people out here were diabetic that were out here on the road stuck in cars and stuff and not able to get to their medication.
Today, volunteers brought food and water for the waiting, like Jimmy Stringer and his show dogs.
We're coming from Westminster Dog Show.
16 legs stuck in a van together for 16 hours. The shutdown was set off yesterday afternoon when an 18-wheeler got stuck.
And last night, they got slammed with more snow and more sleet. Mother Nature creating the mother of all traffic jams.
And this is its ugly stepsister. At New York's JFK Airport, hundreds of flights were canceled. JetBlue boarded passengers on 10 of their planes, then taxied them to the tarmac, where they sat for up to 11 hours.
It was stacking up in the toilet. So.
Passengers say they could see the terminal, but the planes wouldn't turn around. JetBlue said the wheels were frozen to the tarmac.
To sit on a plane that long, to be pulled into a gate for 9 hours was horrible.
And just amazing that in New York City, with so many gates available and such a large airport, we were not able to get the 200 feet from where we are to the terminal.
Today, JetBlue apologized to customers, offering a refund and a free round-trip ticket. Hopefully, they didn't use those tickets today. The snow stopped, but hundreds of passengers' plans are still stranded, frozen in place.
And passengers are calling this whole mess jet black and blue. It has revived a lot of calls for an airline customer rights law. Some Washington lawmakers say they're already on board. Katie?
All right, what a mess. Sharon Alfonsi. Sharon, thank you so much. There's some pretty amazing police video that shows just how dangerous it was on those icy highways. A FedEx tractor trailer skidded out near Cincinnati this past Tuesday, slamming into several cars. Remarkably, no one was seriously hurt, and police officers saved a woman's life by pulling her off the highway just before that truck came barreling through. Meanwhile, the battle over President Bush's Iraq policy is now heating up. While the debate goes on in Congress over a symbolic resolution opposing his troop buildup, a powerful House Democrat is now plotting a strategy to stop that buildup in its tracks. Here's our Capitol Hill correspondent, Cheryl Atkinson.
House Democrats today continue to push their symbolic resolution opposing the administration's Iraq plan.
They are in a losing war with the truth.
But today, Representative John Murtha, head of the powerful committee that approves funding for the war, made it clear he plans to go well beyond symbolism.
The real vote will come on the legislation we're putting together.
That legislation, which Murtha revealed today on the website of a Democratic activist group, would place substantial roadblocks in the way of the president's troop surge. It would prohibit sending any soldiers back into battle until they've had a full year at home. It would set equipment and training requirements that the military can't currently meet. And it would stop the Pentagon from extending current battlefield tours, a practice that's become routine.
If they can't extend people, if they can't send people back that don't have equipment and so forth, they can't continue to surge is what it amounts to.
At his press conference yesterday, President Bush seemed to see Murtha's tactics coming.
My hope, however, is that this non-binding resolution doesn't try to turn into a binding policy that prevents our troops from doing that which I have asked them to do.
It's not clear yet whether Murtha's proposal can pass the House and Senate, but he's clearly putting his muscle behind it. And he's not just one of the most powerful men in the House. He's the confidant of the most powerful woman, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Katie?
Cheryl, if Congressman Murtha's goal is to stop the troop buildup, why not just cut off funding altogether?
Cutting funding, Katie, is seen as a very unpopular thing, even among a lot of Democrats who think it could be construed as not supporting the troops. So Murtha's proposal is a way to get at the same goal without holding a vote to cut funding.
Cheryl Atkinson reporting from Capitol Hill tonight. The Iraqi Interior Ministry claims tonight that its forces wounded a major terrorist leader. He's Abu Ayyub al-Masri, the head of the group known as al-Qaeda in Iraq. The U.S. military has not confirmed the report, and the Iraqis did not say what his condition is or whether he's in custody. But they do say his top aide was killed in a battle near Balad, north of Baghdad. Meanwhile, the security crackdown continued today in the capital, with U.S. and Iraqi forces moving into a Sunni neighborhood after sweeping 3 Shiite sections yesterday. But for most of the city, the crackdown is not yet stopping the violence. Here's our chief foreign correspondent, Lara Logan.
It's car bombings like this one in Baghdad today that people here are hoping the new security plan will stop. But even with the plan now underway, only a fraction of the extra troops scheduled for deployment in the capital are actually on the streets. That's particularly disturbing for these Sunni people who are living in fear on Haifa Street in central Baghdad. Right now, this platoon from Crazy Horse Troop are the only soldiers they trust to protect them.
I couldn't see anybody in the U.S. ever living like this, you know, and it's sad. It really tears me up knowing that this is the way they have to live because the government's not stable right now.
It will be another 2 months before any additional U.S. troops get to Haifa Street. So for now, Crazy Horse Troop provide what security they can. Here, making sure private food donations are handed out to Haifa Street residents who've been trapped in their homes since fighting erupted in January.
You can see the pain in their eyes when you're talking to the people here. You can tell they're hungry before, even talking to them.
How difficult is it for them to get food on their own?
Right now, it's very difficult. With the enemy that's around here, in this area, it's a real hostile area. These people are scared just to go outside their front door.
Scared of snipers who will shoot anyone, these residents and soldiers say, even women and children. This woman is one of 3 who'd been shot. She can't get to a hospital, so the troop's medic tries to help. But he believes she'll soon lose her arm to gangrene.
We're trying to secure it back to, a safe area again. But a lot of these people want to leave, to be honest, because anytime they're walking around here, they run the risk of being killed.
These soldiers are doing everything they can to help, but admit there aren't enough of them to make Haifa Street safe for a while. Lara Logan, CBS News, Baghdad.
Meanwhile, all week, we've been focusing on the safety of our food supply. Just today, the Centers for Disease Control put out a warning about an outbreak of salmonella that has made 300 people sick in 39 states. The culprit? Peanut butter. It's the first time in this country that salmonella has ever been found in peanut butter. Mark Strassman has the latest.
Grocers today were carting away peanut butter, pulled off the shelves after an unprecedented outbreak of salmonella poisoning.
I got sick when I ate it. I threw it up.
In Oklahoma City, the entire Gilbert family got sick after eating peanut butter.
I was hospitalized 2 times. I'm pregnant, and when you're pregnant and you get dehydrated, it's a lot more serious.
The brands pulled from the shelves: Peter Pan and Walmart's Great Value peanut butter. if the jar's product code began with serial number 2111. Health inspectors traced the problem to this peanut butter factory in southern Georgia that's since been closed.
Where does the investigation go from here?
Well, the investigation goes to the production facility.
Looking hard at
their production practices and doing investigation and testing at the plant.
It took 6 months to get the bad jars off the shelves because everything about this case was unusual, from the type of salmonella to the source of the contamination. Who would have thought eating peanut butter could be bad for you? Chantel Gilbert thought her family had a virus, then read online about the recall.
I checked our peanut butter, and sure enough, we had that number.
Now, as a precaution, ConAgra, the manufacturer, told CBS News it's recalling all its jars of Peter Pan peanut butter. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Atlanta.
And it may seem obvious, but if you have any of this tainted peanut butter, the CDC says throw it out. Just ahead, we'll conclude our special series on food safety with a look at a very different issue: what's being done to protect our food from terrorists. CBS News in Focus is next. And later, is your child being harassed online? It's called cyberbullying. And this father says it helped drive his son to suicide. CBS News in Focus. Tonight we conclude our special series on food safety. We told you a moment ago about that tainted peanut butter presumed to be an accident, but what's to prevent intentional food poisoning by terrorists? There are 2 million farms in this country spread out over nearly 1 billion acres, 97 million head of cattle, and 200,000 grocery stores, and they're all potential targets. Bob Orr looks at the threat and what's being done to make sure our food is safe enough to eat.
Nearly 300 people were sick before the current salmonella outbreak could be tracked to a peanut butter processor in Georgia. 200 others were ill and 3 people had died by the time scientists traced last fall's E. coli contamination to California's spinach. Both accidental outbreaks underscore a frightening reality. Once a poison or bioagent infects America's food chain, it's hard to detect and even harder to stop, making the U.S. food supply an inviting target for terrorists.
This is the new fight, the new battleground, September 11th.
John Perrin, who runs the FBI office handling weapons of mass destruction, says so-called agro-terrorism is a real threat from farm to fork.
The food chain, the agricultural system is very large. Therefore, we have vulnerabilities. We consider that a soft target.
While terrorists have not made a move against U.S. agriculture, bioweapons researcher Jerry Jack says it would be easy to taint the food supply or damage America's $2 trillion farm economy.
Certainly, these are risks that are very, very real.
The most worrisome agro-weapon is foot and mouth, a highly contagious disease which doesn't hurt people but ravages livestock. It was wiped out in the U.S. 80 years ago, but it remains a threat in much of the world. In 2001, 4 million infected animals in the United Kingdom had to be slaughtered and burned. Food experts warn a single outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the U.S., whether triggered by an accident or a terrorist, would cause much greater damage. Millions of cattle may have to be destroyed, and economic losses could run into the tens of billions of dollars. The foot and mouth virus could be easily carried to the United States from an infected area by a tourist or a terrorist. Experts say reporting on this vulnerability and other food-related risks does not help terror groups. They already have the information. Scientists are fighting back. CBS News got an exclusive look at a first-of-its-kind, yet-to-be-opened agriculture biosecurity center at Kansas State University.
Now we're entering the actual containment facility.
Here, investigators will work to identify emerging biothreats, handling some of the most lethal pathogens from E. coli to anthrax to foot and mouth.
And if we were to have some sort of an outbreak, we have a place to really deal with the science involved in trying to figure out how best to respond.
The research will improve defenses against both deliberate and accidental contamination. Biologist Doug Powell says consumers should not overly worry about food-related threats, but
agroterrorism is always there. It's like foodborne illness in a way, in that you don't really know where it's going to come from next, so your best prevention is constant vigilance.
An awareness that America's food supply, while the safest in the world, will never be completely free from risk. Bob Orr, CBS News, Manhattan, Kansas.
Up next, bullying moves from the schoolyard to the internet. What's being done to fight cyberbullying? But first, CBS News honors American heroes. Jonathan Halsey, wounded in Iraq by a roadside bomb, his left leg was amputated below the knee. But with the prosthesis, he says there's not much he can't do. He proved it by competing in the New York Marathon using a hand-cranked bike until it broke halfway through the race. He ran the rest of the way. A father of two, Halsey plans to stay in the Army. He believes he can be a role model for other amputees. Bullies have been around for as long as there have been kids, and now some have moved to a new location, the internet. A recent study found that 1 out of 3 children 12 to 17 years old and 1 out of 6 ages 6 to 11 have had mean, threatening, or embarrassing things said about them online. Our science and technology correspondent Daniel Seberg has more.
Mary Ellen Handy had an old-fashioned fight over a boy, but it took place on high-tech turf. Insults hurled at her online.
Mary Ellen, you're such a whore, you're a slut. I can't believe you took my boyfriend.
It's called cyberbullying. Thanks to technology, abuse travels farther and faster and can be devastating.
I started throwing up. I couldn't eat, and I got really sick, and I got these stomach problems.
8th grader Ryan Halligan took it even harder when a rumor about him spread through the web.
It was like a feeding frenzy. Kids that normally didn't bully Ryan got in on the fun, both at school and online.
Ryan's father, John Halligan, believes depression from cyberbullying contributed to his son's suicide at age 13.
My son, he was a sweet, sensitive kid. That's just who he was.
Too often kids face cyberbullies all by themselves in the dark, staring at the screen.
Perry Aftab, an expert in online safety for kids, says cyberbullying is a growing menace, which schools can have trouble controlling, especially if it starts off campus.
And you know what? They're right. So when it comes to changing some laws, I think we need to give schools a little bit more jurisdiction if what starts out at home has an impact in school.
There are solutions online. Many social networking sites forbid abusive language. If bullying is reported, the perpetrator's account can be shut down. Parents can also install spy software to monitor their kids' messages. There's even a service that promises to search out and destroy hurtful comments. But what finally worked for Mary Ellen was a low-tech solution. Bigger kids telling the bully to back off.
If it wasn't for them, I don't know, if it would have stopped.
Proving that whether in the schoolyard or on the internet, bullies can be beat. Daniel Seberg, CBS News, Wyckoff, New Jersey.
And coming up next on the CBS Evening News, ever dream of doing this? He says you can, and he'll teach you. If the only thing you know how to dunk is a donut, listen up. Bill Whitaker found a man who says he can make you shine on the hardwood.
If you have ever dreamed of doing this, then you should meet Gil Thomas. He claims he can teach just about anybody to dunk a basketball.
That's my job. The dream maker, the dunk master. Stay on your toes.
He's a taskmaster for Michael Jordan wannabes like Frank Hara and Sergio Siderman. The key to dunking, says Gil, quick, strong leg muscles, strong backs and abs. So he has them lifting, jumping, running, reaching higher than they ever imagined.
The first time I worked this out, I threw up after the workout.
You have to be willing to, kill yourself.
Reaching your fantasy doesn't come easily.
No, it doesn't. Not even on Fantasy Island.
So why do it? 34-year-old businessman Sergio couldn't let go of the dream he'd had since high school.
6'3", wasn't getting any younger, had never dunked a basketball.
For Frank, it was a gift he gave himself after winning a battle with testicular cancer.
You kind of think to yourself, there's some things in life that I should have done or I could have done.
What you want is to dunk.
That's right. Well, one of the things.
Gil Thomas had the same dream when he was 13. At 5'8", nobody believed he could dunk, but he studied the best athletes, read hundreds of books, and trained harder than anyone. And by 15, he was dunking.
It was just the ability to just leave the ground for seconds. It felt good.
That was 30 years ago. Now he teaches. How long would it take me?
Probably about a year of shape you look like you're in.
He says he can teach even baby boomer journalists to do this. Okay, so I lowered the rim a few feet. I didn't have a year to practice, but I can still dream, can't I? After a few months, 5'11" Frank is almost there. And Sergio, after 7 weeks of training and trying,
they want me to make their fantasy come true.
Kobe, watch out. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And Bill Whitaker, you fooled us. That's the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.
CBS News. See it now, anytime, anywhere.